You know, looking back, I really don't like this video. I'm more than grateful for 2 million views, but it's way past time for an update. It's been 2 years. Let's try this again. Vander as a character instantly clicked with me watching Arcane. Ignoring how I personally felt about him, there was no denying he caught my eye and many others from the moment he took in Vi and Jinx when they were kids after their parents died. We knew he was gonna be of major importance. In fact, it's pretty easy to say the exact moment he became the topic of discussion.
So you're Vander.
Hound of the Underground.
Hound of the Underground. Riot are pretty good at being subtle about things when it comes to lore, but having a character with that title seems like a pretty big arrow pointing to this character screaming, hey. He's Warwick. And Act 1 is littered with stuff like this, specifically when it comes to Vander, as it happens most when he's on screen. Vander is only really relevant in Act 1 before he died, only being mentioned, visioned, and hallucinated in following acts, but the Warwick symbolism follows all throughout. Besides being outright called Hound of the Underground, it's made apparent that Vander has a dark criminal past. That much isn't really new for Zorn, but the fact that he's reformed from that past and is trying to have a better life, that is pretty much the same as Warwick's past in his story.
It wasn't for touching kids, was it?
There are some inconsistencies, but the same goes for pretty much every champion featured in Arcane. It was a massive change for all of them, and this was even before the decision to make Arcane the canon story for them all. So I won't bother going into what's different between Warwick's current lore and the little bit of Vander's story that we got in the series. As again, we only have about 3 episodes worth of material to work with, so any connection ends up being really big. And there are enough of them to not just be coincidences. Okay, besides the obvious stuff like everyone calling Vander a mutt, one of the people helping Silco is none other than Singed. We later see him working on the same green chemtech experiments in later episodes, so that alone would be enough, but then you realize, while yes he was injured in the fire, since he was close to Silco, he most likely had access to Vander's corpse. We didn't really see Warwick until the final episode where we get a brief shot of him slightly obscured, but enough lines up for it to make sense that it's Vander. And speaking of Singed, when Jinx was injured in the bridge explosion, Silco brought Jinx to him for help. Why is this important? Because, when we later see Jinx freaking out and hallucinating her dead brothers and Vander, we see her hallucinate a wolf-like form for him. This could be pure coincidence, but so could everything else I've talked about. It's very possible, while he was operating on her she saw Warwick, or what will be him. There are a bunch of tiny blink and you will miss it details that also help. Someone pointed out to me, the arm Silco scratched that Vander covers constantly is the same arm Warwick's mechanical features are on. Also worth noting, when we see him being dragged to the chair we hear a theme eerily similar to Warwick's hunt theme. Also later in the episode, when he was completely rided out on Shimmer, his body and voice change, becoming damn near one-to-one with Warwick's.
You're the prey! Less talking, more biting. Blood brings rage, like men to the slaughter. It takes a monster to gut one. If you die, how many live? Killing, I remember.
But enough beating around the bush. The thing that most convinces me that he's Warwick are the in-game interactions. When Warwick is in a match with either of the two, he'll say,
"Who taught you how to punch?"
and
"You were there. Let me forget."
respectively. Before Arcane, all we could do was speculate on his connection to the two, but now they are put into much more perspective and are kinda heartbreaking. Sometime after Arcane aired, and it was confirmed Warwick was going to be in season 2, he was added to Wild Rift, getting his own cinematic trailer. Two major things of importance to take note from the trailer. One, the girl Warwick was hunting bears somewhat a resemblance to Jinx. This is most noticeable in her hair, but the real hard stab comes from this line.
And yet, part of the human creature remains.
Part of the human still remains. This doesn't directly relate to Vander in any meaningful way, but it's a heartbreaking detail that just adds to the possible heartache in season 2 if it truly is him. That just about wraps things up until season 2 is finally out. We finally got to see him in the trailers. Sorta. In the trailer shots we see of him for season 2, his face is mostly obscured, implying one of two things. 1. Showing his face would be too much of a spoiler, or 2. He's not finished yet, and I don't mean his animations or anything like that. I mean he's not completed yet by Singed. That he's in the halfway point of his transformation, and showing too much of his design would spoil it. This is the clearest shot we have of his face, and it's clear he isn't the exact same Warwick we have in League. We don't have too much on how big a role he will play in season 2's story, but personally I hope he has a big role. A fear I have is that he won't have a character, and will just be a monster that has to be worried about in the background sometimes. It's highlighted multiple times that despite how feral Warwick is, he's still human inside. Seeing that struggle would just make season 2 all the better, not to mention the interactions with the other characters. We already know he will face off against Va at some point, so why not make it even more heartbreaking? Alright, I think I've milked this for all that I can. I love Warwick, so I couldn't help but take interest in his story for Arcane. As much as I love talking about it, I had to get this out before season 2 arrived. But it's okay. I love editing on a strict deadline. Isn't that right, me?
Fuck you.
Love you too. But that's going to be all for now until season 2 releases. I plan to cover that extensively, so look forward to it. So see you later.